share with you today how finally knowing that we are everlasting souls here on this earth for a divine purpose has helped me heal some of my past traumas and losses. So I'll also be drawing upon my observations of mediumship while I've been with Celebrate Life for 2.5 years, where I witnessed people receiving healing messages from family and friends already gone and in spirit. For grieving survivors, the messages assured that their loved ones are still around, well and safe, watching over them. And they often receive thanks and appreciation for the survivors taking care of the relatives that passed on during the last days. And for some survivors, they were released of the guilt they felt around the death of that person, something that they did that they felt guilty about, maybe they wish they had done something differently, but they'll get messages from the deceased loved one that, this is nothing for you to feel guilty about. And also for abuse survivors to hear expressions of regret and receiving apologies for the harm that the deceased person had done to this person, the survivor. So that's some of the gifts of the mediumship that I've witnessed. Before I learned about spiritualism or had any more of a firm idea of the afterlife, my only evidence being that my grandfather came to visit me to assure me that he was well and healthy looking wherever he was. He came to me in person, in spirit, in person. And then since I was too afraid to turn around and look at him, he came to me in a dream to give me the full message he wanted to give me. So many years ago, I was dating a man who told me that his mother had died of cancer overseas. He told me that he flew out there to take care of her and she had died in his arms. And in my clumsy attempt to comfort him, I said, I know, she's not suffering anymore. She's in a beautiful place, because I'm thinking about my grandfather, drawing from that experience and knowledge. And this made him more upset. And he says, no, she died in agony. And it just upset him more. And then it made me think, like, wait, what am I assuming, that this is where everyone goes when they die? Maybe I'm wrong about this. Remember, the Christian religion teaches us the two destinations for us after this life is either heaven or hell. And, maybe I should be more careful making that assumption that everyone goes into this beautiful light. So how to tell people who have not had their own proof of the afterlife and how beautiful it is? Spiritualism and evidentiary mediumship helps bring that experiential knowing. On what death teaches us, I recently lost a friend to COVID. She's the first person I knew after a whole year of the pandemic that caught the virus and died from it. She told none of her friends. She sort of just disappeared and avoided seeing us. And because of the stigma, I understand. She was, her name's Yuri, and she was brilliant. She was a scientist and a researcher. And what was great about her was that she got me. We could have these discussions and she would understand what I was saying. And she would spar with me, and we could debate issues and ideas and theories. And I learned so much from just talking to her. And so I feel this great loss because she was a brilliant person in mind and a very caring person in heart. And when we lost her, I was not just only shocked, but I really grieved the way she died. She was waiting at a bus stop, and then she just collapsed, and no one found her for 20 minutes. And the coroner had decided that she had determined that she had died from lack of oxygen. She was so sick that she didn't know that she needed to be in the hospital. She just thought she could recover from it because she was young and healthy, more athletic than the rest of us in the hike group. And we thought with anyone, she should have survived COVID. In the depth of my shock and grief over how suddenly Yuri died, I found spiritualism to be of little comfort. I felt very alone, and there were moments that I wanted to go and be with her. Another emotion I experienced surprised me. I felt anger at the way she died, alone with no one to save her. Why couldn't anyone help her? After I cried and raged, I eventually arrived at some level of acceptance that she is gone, except to know that she's not completely gone, because I have experienced some subtle signs that she's still around, that she's nearby. Grieving a loss is natural, and just because I'm a spiritualist doesn't mean that I won't feel sad, angry, lonely, or scared. Because even when we believe, we can still grieve. On what her death taught me, there were some lessons and reminders for me from Yuri's passing. Her death reminds me that we cannot take the time that we have left for granted because we don't know when our exit is. You know, this is not always by our choice. It's some sort of destiny. I can't really explain it all. I don't have access to it. But whatever time we have left, we should enjoy in the best way possible. And her passing also made me even take a closer look at my own life, that I need to think more keenly about where I want to go and become the driver of my own life and not live by anyone else's expectations. She got me super hyper focused on not spending my remaining time unhappy or being around people who do not respect or care about me, that I make better choices of who I spend my time with and what actions I should take to make wise choices. She showed me that being around the wrong people can cause one to end up being alone in the end, and that the real thing, and that's relationships with regard and reciprocity, doesn't make us feel empty or dead inside. Love and respect fills us, not drain us. She is my angel now, and I speak to Yuri often, knowing that she's very likely hearing me and knows everything that's going on. And that's from the proof of the mediumship readings I've witnessed at Celebrate Life. Even though I still miss her, I imagine she is at peace and joyous wherever she is now. And now I want to talk about the themes of the mediumship messages that I've heard since my time at Celebrate Life. Some of the messages are involving encouraging us to have fun, to be authentic and true to yourselves. Don't fear pursuing your deepest goals, to open our hearts, move from our heads to our heart, even though we do need both in conjunction, to practice developing our connection and communication to spirit, to find our kindreds and be careful about our choices of who we let into our lives, to worry less. It's so easy to worry because this world provides a lot of opportunity, problems for us to solve, and we just have to relax and sense our way to the solutions. To love and take care of ourselves. The message is always self-love, as well as respecting and loving others, but we have to remember ourselves too. They apparently see and know what we're doing. I remember in one reading, someone was talking about, a medium was saying, yes, this person saw you change your dress. You decided to go with the blue one this morning. And I looked at the surprise on her face when she heard that reading. So they know what's going on. And the messages also include apologies, regrets, love, encouragement, pride in the progress that we're making in our lives and what we're doing. And also some predictions of where we're going, maybe a new career, next level development in our spiritual connection. I want to talk about, for abuse survivors, it's a more complicated grief. When an abusive parent or a family member passes on, I was dating this very nice man who told me that his abusive father had passed away. And then I told him that I would think it was harder for someone to lose a loving parent because you really miss your ally, someone you're really close with, and all of a sudden you're alone and possibly feeling abandoned and missing this loving parent. And he says, no, it's much tougher when you lose an abusive parent because there's no closure. There's so much that's not reconciled. And I realized he was right because my parents are abusive and I have my mother who passed away. And so I now understand that losing both type of parents, a loving one and an abusive one, are both very hard griefs. So my conclusion from witnessing evidentiary mediumship is that they all go home to the same place, same beautiful place, even the terrible ones. And maybe they start out the Motel 6 for the ones who were, not the best person when they were here. And then eventually they work their way up to the Ritz-Carlton. So my mother, I'm using my mother as an example. Despite her mental illness, she was deliberately cruel, good at gaslighting, was a chronic liar. She could partition her violence and abusive behavior depending on who she was with. It felt very deliberate, even though she was mentally ill. And she was dead for 11 years before I heard from her. And this is when I stepped in to celebrate life. I'm impressed that all 4 readings I got from my mother, messages from my mother, were consistent. None of them were going to suggest that she was a loving, doting mother. No, they all knew. They all channeled this mother who was not a good mother. And I was told that she's learning now. She's in some school where she's learning, and she acknowledges that she hurt me. And her message to me is that I am to share my story so that other people can learn and I can help others with my story. And that made me also focus on spiritualist principle number 8, that we affirm the doorway to reformation is never closed against any soul here or hereafter. The beauty of mediumship is that the abusive parent can come back and apologize for the harm they've done. So after years of trying to heal and make sense of what happened, my life is more manageable now, and I'm grateful to be at this point, because if I did not if I had not achieved this level of resolution, I would not be able to appreciate that we are all everlasting souls existing in this physical human form to live out some divine purpose. And that's true for all of us. And if I hadn't reached this level of healing, I would have never been able to accept that. So spiritualism and mediumship offers an opportunity to heal and learn. We gain comfort and assurance that our past loved ones are well, that since we are everlasting souls, we will reunite with our beloved when it is our time, after we're done with what we're supposed to do here. That we will be released from our guilt because we are forgiven by those in spirit. And that we can release our hurt as we process our past traumas when we receive an apology or hear expression of regret for wrongs done to us by the deceased. We learn that forgiveness is possible even after one is gone. We learn how to better, more happily live the rest of our lives from what the dying, death, and spirits teach us. These are the gifts of spiritualism. And in closing, I want to share a eulogy poem. I'm going to share. Let's see, I have to open the document first. It's a eulogy that I read during the memorial for Yuri, my friend Yuri. And it's beautiful because it's written by someone who believes in the afterlife. In loving memory of Yuri, those we love, by Anonymous. Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day. unseen, unheard, but always near, still loved, still missed, and very dear, wishing us hope in the midst of sorrow, offering comfort in the midst of pain, both today and tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening.